Hi everyone, this is being recorded, as your warning.
Being recorded right now?
Right now.
Right meow?
Sure as you will.
Alright, let's get started.
Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law.
Love is the law, love under will.
Alright, welcome. Today we are going to be talking about The Soldier and the Hunchback, which is Aleister Crowley's essay on skepticism. So, and silence your phones if you will. Act like this is a class of some sort.
So sorry.
People don't want to be disturbed in.
I don't believe it.
Class of some sort. Thelemic class. It's all good. Okay. So, what is a skeptic? Keith hit me with his little thing earlier when I came in, and he said that he wasn't going to believe anything I said, and I commend him for that, because if you know me well enough, you will know that I support independent thought and to question everything, which is part of the premise of this essay. Unless you're being an asshole. Which we're going to get into in this essay. Crowley does good justice to that. So the dictionary definition of a skeptic is one who instinctively or who habitually doubts, questions, or disagrees with assertions or generally accepted conclusions. We know these people. One inclined to skepticism in religious matters is another definition. So we know the skeptic who is very much aimed at Christianity, for instance, or Islam, for instance. These people who, that's their point of skepticism. Whereas the rest of their lives may not actually be that skeptical, but they're very skeptical about religious matters, which is somewhat understandable considering the Crusades and all of these good things that have gone on in the past couple thousand years. The philosophy of skepticism originated or was exemplified by Pyrrho. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. A Greek philosopher and founder of the concept of skepticism. He maintained that true wisdom and happiness lie in suspension of judgment, since certain knowledge is impossible to attain. So from his point of view, Pyrrho, which I'll write the name down, always good to check these guys out, because those Greeks, man, all they did was sit around all day and philosophize, so got a lot of good stuff to say. I forgot the H.
So should it be with fire?
Yeah, sure. Probably. Definitely got those, got that connotation in it. So I think what Pyrrho is referring to in particular as far as suspension of judgment. So suspension of judgment is suspension of judging a certain instance or a certain person immediately. So suspending your judgment and to, because the basic idea here is that, until you've walked a mile in that person's shoes, you don't know anything. And even when you do walk a mile in that person's shoes, you're still not that person. So suspending the judgment of that person is what allows the true skeptic to investigate. So the true skeptic is an investigator. So going on to Crowley's definition, I'll read a little bit out of I'm going to be reading a little bit out of the essay as we go on. So this is Crowley talking. One must pass through contemptuously the Christian liar's gloss, which interprets skeptic as mocker. Though in a sense it is true for him, since to inquire into Christianity is assuredly to mock at it. As a joke, but, well, kind of not. But I am concerned to intensify the etymological connotation in several respects. First, I do not regard mere incredulity as necessary to the idea, though credulity is incompatible with it. So what's incredulity? Incredulity. What is that about? Does anybody know what that means? Definition? No? Okay.
A lack of credibility?
Close. So the incredulity, I don't know why I'm having so much trouble pronouncing this word. Incredulity. I can't do it. It's the whiskey talking.
Incredulity?
Yeah, you got it. Listen to him.
Just point at me when you need that word.
Is the state of being unable or unwilling to believe in something. So what Crowley's saying is that is not the necessary intention behind this. Is that incredulity implies a prejudice in favor of a negative conclusion. So when you come at it, like incredulity is like, yeah, let's see that Loch Ness monster. Like you're not going to see anything, even if it's right in front of your face, because you're doubting so much, and you'll kind of wander off or whatever. The true skeptic should be perfectly unbiased. However, indolence is no virtue in a questioner. So again, another word, indolence. Does anybody know what that means? It's kind of older words in our English language. It means laziness.
Indolence?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It means laziness, sloth, whatever you want to call it. Basically, just kind of very passive. All right. Eagerness, intentness, concentration, vigilance. All these I include in the connotation of skeptic. And these words are so important, I'm going to write them down. So, true skeptic. Eagerness. So the eagerness is in approaching the question with actually trying to find an answer that's not already been predetermined, right? Intentness. See your question to the end, to try to find that answer. Concentration. Everybody knows that nothing can actually be achieved without actual concentration. Concentration is not doing something half-ass. It's actually concentrating your one-pointed will on that thing. And vigilance. Vigilance. What's the difference between vigilance and concentration? I don't know. There's some little definition, but vigilant is, I think more about
seems more active.
yeah, sustaining your power, right?
It's more kind of like endurance, I think.
Mhm.
Like going,
Yeah.
like continuing to go.
Right. Yeah. The energy, the
Where concentration's more like in the moment.
right, focusing on it. Yeah. So such questioning, as has been called vital skepticism, is but a device to avoid true questioning, and therefore its very antithesis, the devil disguised as an angel of light. So the vital skepticism is, in this regard, is I believe what Crowley was talking about here was that vital skepticism is just only focus on one little aspect of the questioning, and instead of taking in the whole, and again, This isn't about coming at this with an already somewhat predetermined answer or an answer or anything of that sort. It's actually asking the question and then allowing yourself to take in the information. Okay, this is Crowley's famous quote from this, or one of the famous quotes from this essay. This essay, by the way, is pure gold, and I highly recommend reading it for yourselves throughout the rest of your life, because it's very, very powerful, and it's funny too.
Which text is it in?
This is in the Equinox somewhere.
I don't think it's in James.
It's not, no. Do you know where it is?
It's in a bunch of places, including, I think it's some editions of Magic and Varying Practice.
The
Is it?
Paladins or something?
Yeah,
I
it
know
might
it's
be.
in some paperbacks, so so hard to find. And of course, the internet's.
Hermetic.com is always a source for this stuff, and I understand not wanting to read from on a computer, so I printed it out for myself. You can do the same. It's about 20 pages or something. So, Crowley says, I picture the true skeptic as a man eager and alert, his deep eyes glittering like sharp swords, his hands tense with effort as he asks, what does it matter? I picture the false skeptic as a dude, or popinjay. Dude. And that's a term no one would self-apply around from. With dull eyes, his muscles limp, his purpose in asking the question, but the expression of his slackness and stupidity. So there we have Crowley's definition of a true skeptic and false skeptic. Pretty clear how he feels about this. The true skeptic is indeed the man of science. He has devised some means of answering his first question, and his answer is another question. So, moving on to more of the philosophical stuff. Let's look at the first thing that is brought up in the essay, which is cogitatur, which is the Latin, comes from the Latin cogito, which means I think. Cogitatur is the third person singular, passive indicative present, simply translated as it is thought. Or thought exists. But is this cogitatur true? Depending on who you ask. The sages would say, surely, for to deny it implies a thought, negatory. And that is only a subsection of cogitatur. This involves, however, an axiom that is the part of the same nature as the whole, or at the very least, an axiom that is A is A. Now, and this is Crowley. Now, I do not wish to deny that A is A, or maybe occasionally A, but certainly A is a very different statement to our original cogitatur, which is thought exists. So we're taking thought exists to A equals A. But now we're kind of, we've taken one thing, we separated it into two things. So Crowley goes on saying that the proof of cogitatur rests not upon itself, but upon the validity of our logic. And if by logic we mean the code of the laws of thought, is a general term for human logic. The irritating skeptic will have many more remarks to make, for it now appears that the proof that thought exists depends upon the truth of that which is thought. Let me repeat that. where it now appears that the proof that thought exists depends upon the truth of that which is thought. So we're spinning out a little bit with these things, right? You know, it's going to go on for a little while before we bring it back. We got to take you out to sea a little bit in the boat. You know, we're going to take a little cruise. Enjoy yourselves. So we have taken, this is Crowley again, we have taken cogitatur to try and avoid the use of esse, which is to be, but a is a involves that very idea, and the proof is fatally flawed. Cogitatur depends on est, which is in Latin, it is, and there's no avoiding that. So, moving on to it is, which is existence. The plain existence is existence of the Hebrews goes much further, and this is eheye, asher eheye, and that means I am that I am. Again, kind of I am that I am, kind of two things. But it is the most skeptical of statements in spite of its form. Existence is just existence, and there's no more to be said about it. Don't worry. But there is more to be said about it. Though we search ourselves for a thought to match the word, and fail, yet we have Berkeley's perfectly convincing argument that, so far as we know it, existence must mean thinking existence or spiritual existence. Okay? So here we find est, which is it is, to imply cogitatur, which is I am, or I think. And Berkeley's arguments are irrefragable, yet fail to produce conviction. Because cogitatur, as we have shown, implies est. Okay? So neither of these ideas is simple. Alright? Each one of these things involves the other. And the division between them in our brain is proof of the total incapacity of that organ, or is it just a flaw of our logic? For all depends upon our logic, really. So what we're looking at is the logical syllogism, which is if this, then this, which kind of connotes there's this thing and this thing, which again we're working with duality. Okay. So but thought is even denial of the thought is a thought. So even formally, essentially, it seems to involve a great deal beyond our original statement. We compass heaven and earth to make one syllogism, and when we have made it, it is tenfold more the child of mystery than ourselves. So, as we kind of delve further and further into this logic, you start to uncover more and more of the mystery, which I think is a key component to being a skeptic. To think that you're going to finally get to a place that you know everything is arrogant and limiting, it's restricting to the experience of life. There are certain things that we can always do better than others, and there's certain knowledge we can attain, but who's to say that knowledge won't just disappear from our minds somehow, some way. So Crowley says, we go deeper and deeper than it seems from the one into the many. Our primary proposition depends no longer upon itself, but upon the whole complex being of man. Poor, disputing, muddle-headed man. Man, with all his limitations and ignorance. Man. Man. That's Crowley. So, if we're going to go into looking at the many now, right? So we've kind of started off with one seed, it's broken into two, now the zygote has kind of creating a lot more cells now. This is, again, Crowley's quote. We are, of course, no happier when we examine the many, separately or together. They converge and diverge, each fresh hilltop of knowledge disclosing a vast land unexplored. Each gain of power in our telescopes opening up new galaxies. Each improvement in our microscopes showing us life more minute and more incomprehensible. A mystery of the mighty spaces between the molecules. A mystery of the ether cushions that fend off the stars from collision. A mystery of the fullness of things. A mystery of the emptiness of things. Yet, as we go, there grows a sense, an instinct, a premonition. What shall I call it? That being is one, and thought is one, and law is one. Until we ask, what is that one? What is that one? What is it? Does anybody have any ideas for like what that one could be named? I like that.
I think it's that thing that's so far removed from what we know that the capacity we have cannot describe it.
Okay. The ineffable.
Aim?
Yeah, more or less. Not to call it something else.
Right. Some people call it God. Some people call it the universe,
Nature?
spirit. I don't know. But what in the devil's name is God? So, going on with Crowley. If with Moses we picture God as an old man showing us his back parts, who shall blame us, the great question, any question, is the great question. Does indeed treat us with cavalierly. The disenchanted skeptic is too prone to think. Well, shall we define him as a loving father, as a jealous priest, as a gleam of light upon the holy ark? What does it matter? All these images are of wood and stone. The wood and stone of our stupid brains. The fatherhood of God is but a human type. The idea of a human father conjoined with the idea of immensity. 2 for 1 again, right? So Crowley's pointing out that these concepts that we have of this ineffable or this vastness, they're our concepts. So again, we're separating ourselves from this thing by thinking it other than us. No combination of his thoughts can be greater than the thinking brain itself. All we can think of God or say of him, so long as our words really represent thoughts, is less than the whole brain which thinks and orders speech. No combination of thoughts can be greater than the thinking brain itself. And all we can think of God or say of him, so long as our words really represent thoughts, is less than the whole brain which thinks and orders speech.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah. You want? Okay.
I do.
No combination of thoughts can be greater than the thinking brain itself. All we can think of God or say of him, so long as our words really represent thoughts, is less than the whole brain which thinks and orders speech. So basically, any thought that we have about God or the universe or the ineffable is diminutive to the greater capacity of all of our collective thoughts. Very good. Shall we proceed by denying him all thinkable qualities, as do the heathen? All we obtain is mere negation of thought. Either he is unknowable or he is less than we are. Then, too, that which is unknowable is unknown. And God, or there is God, as an answer to our question, becomes as meaningless as any other. So, the next chapter in this essay starts to bring up more about, I wouldn't say a solution, but a postulate, a hypothesis that Crowley presents. It is surely time that we begin to question the validity of some of our data so far. So far, our skepticism has not only knocked to pieces our tower of thought, but rooted up the foundation stone and ground it into finer and poisonous powder. Suppose then we accept our skepticism as having destroyed our knowledge root and branch. Is there no limit to its action? Does it not, in a sense, stultify itself, having destroyed logic by logic? If Satan cast out Satan, how shall his kingdom stand? We shall put all the questions that we can put, but we may find a tower built upon a rock, against which the winds beat not in vain, not what Christians call faith, be sure, but what possibly the forgers of the epistles, those eminent mystics, meant by faith. What Crowley calls samadhi. And as faith without works is dead, so, good friends, samadhi is all humbug unless the practitioner shows the glint of its gold in his work in the world. So I think this is a pretty important thing that Crowley is bringing up here, where faith without works is dead. What's the point in having faith in anything if you're not doing anything to serve your community, your brethren, your family, whatnot? So what he's saying also is that samadhi is BS as well, if people can't see that light or can't feel that light from you. So again, we're looking at these things here: intentness, concentration, vigilance. The Christian insists, and this is Crowley speaking, and he's attacking the Christian pretty particularly. We could say this. I could say this about Christians, Jews, Muslims. I could say this about anybody. I think anybody could say this about anybody. But here Crowley's talking about the Christian. He says the Christian insists on notorious lies being accepted as an essential part of his system. Okay, so basically that's the idea with big time religion and cults, or weird things that are trying to control you, is they want you to believe in something just flat out. Just believe it. Believe that the rapture is going to come and you're going to be saved and you're going to heaven, and if you're bad, you're going to hell. Just believe it, right? Crowley, on the contrary, asks for facts, for observation. Under skepticism, one is just as much a house of cards as the other, but only in the philosophical sense. So the difference there that he's pointing out is that even though we may be skeptical to the point where we've uprooted our foundation, we've knocked down our tower, it's not saying that's philosophically, that's mentally. But the Christian, the person who abides in faith in notorious farces, bases their entire life upon this thing, and that is problematic for obvious reasons, and that is not an actual foundation. Okay, so having a house of cards philosophically is kind of cool, because if it's in your head and it falls down, well, you just build it back up again. And how do you build that back up again? Ask another question, and then get another answer, right? And then ask another question, and then get another answer, and it keeps going like that. So practically, science is true, and faith is foolish. So this is talking about practically, right? Practically is the stuff that we do, the actions, earth, where we enact with our mental state onto the physical. So practically, science is true, for the most part, and faith is foolish. Okay, these are some interesting ideas that Crowley's kind of throwing out there. Practically, 3 times 1 is 3, and that's the truth. 3 times 1 is a lie, or 3 times 1 equals 1 is a lie. Though, skeptically, both statements may be false or unintelligible. So you got to imagine, from a point of somebody who doesn't know about what numbers are, it doesn't mean shit. So to them it's a lie, because it's all a lie. Everything in that sense is a lie. And I like this quote. Practically, Franklin's method, Benjamin Franklin, of obtaining fire from the heaven is better than that of Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods, or Elijah. That's a whole other story, Bible story, about obtaining, what it was, Elijah didn't he get struck down, like by lightning or something like this. Anyway, practically, Franklin's method of obtaining fire is better than these guys, these schmucks. I am now writing by the light that Franklin's discovery enabled men to use. Practically, this is where Crowley points at one of the premises behind scientific illuminism. Okay, he says, practically, I concentrated my mind upon a white radiant triangle in whose center was a shining eye. Well, that's not white, but it's that kind of thing. Up there, the blue triangle in the Laman. For 22 minutes and 10 seconds, my attention wandering 45 times. This is a scientific and valuable statement of observation of Crowley's experience. I prayed fervently to the Lord for the space of many days. It means nothing or anything. Anybody who cares to do so may imitate my experiment and compare his result with mine. So you can sit there and think about a radiant white triangle with an eye in the center of it for 22 minutes and 10 seconds. Time yourself. See how many times your attention wanders. Keep track of that. That's actually, and you write it down, that's data that you actually have. That's the truth for you, right? But if you were to apply that to somebody else, that's not necessarily their truth. Haley and I will most likely have different results from our concentration on white triangle with the eye in the center of it. But so in the later case, one would always be wondering what fervently meant and who the Lord was and how many days made many. So the other statement, which is I prayed fervently to the Lord in the space of many days, it's ambiguous. So that statement is, you don't know any of the definitions of those words, really. So again, with this too, in scientific illuminism, it's to record, if you're doing a ritual or if you're trying to figure something out, whatever it may be, you keep track of it, and then you have data that you can go back to and actually look at for yourself and actually obtain some kind of answer to the question. This is Crowley again. My claim too is more modest than the Christians. He knows more about my future than is altogether pleasant. I claim nothing absolute from my samadhi. I know only too well the worthlessness of single-handed observations, even on so simple a matter as a boiling point determination. And as for his future, I content myself with mere common sense about the probable end of a fool. So again, Crowley's making some pretty good jabs at the Christians on this in this essay, which is pretty common for him. Also, he has a lot of biblical passages in this essay, which kind of exemplifies the paradox of not only Crowley, but of life in general. That which you abhor or don't like is that which actually can teach you. You know?
And for what it's worth, he never hated the Bible. He hated what people did.
Exactly. We're not talking about Christianity necessarily. Well, we may be talking about Christianity. We're not talking about the teachings of Christ. We're talking about Christians. Christians who are told to be a certain way by a certain person that's usually in a hierarchy above them, something like that. Which, as Thelemites, we are not too privy to that kind of idea of being told what to think or what to do. So the teachings of Christ are, pretty solid, but the people who say that they follow them these days, nothing really changes. I think it's been that way for a long time. That's a whole other thing, but okay. Okay, so that after all of this, Crowley keeps his skepticism intact while he keeps his samadhi intact. The one balances the other. He says, I care nothing for the vulgar brawling of these two varlets of my mind. So what is he saying here with bringing up skepticism and samadhi? Does anybody have any ideas about the difference that he's bringing up? Like he's saying, so I get to keep my skepticism. I also get to keep my blissful state of oneness with the universe. Is that possible? Is it?
Like, maybe it's just through vigilance. Like, you keep your skepticism, but as long as you keep searching and finding answers, you can retain the oneness with the universe if you feel like you're involved.
Yeah.
I
think you're right on. I think you're right on with that observation for sure. Yeah, I think it's about keeping it going, and also to say that my samadhi experience is not going to be the same as any of yours. My experience with doing the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram is not going to be the same as any of yours. It's just not. Because we're all these unique individuals with unique experiences and unique brains that compute certain things and focus on other things. And I pulled this. What's that?
Yours won't be the same as yours for one day or month or degree to the next.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean that's the other thing is that every moment is a point in time that we've taken in more experiences, and even if you do the same ritual every day, you will notice. I mean, how many here do Liber Resh? And and how many have noticed how even after years of doing that, how impactful it can be sometimes? And how many people notice how boring it can be sometimes? And like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? Am I crazy? Probably. But crazy is a lot better than being normal. So.
There's a quote from a movie that doesn't really apply, but I think it's great.
Yeah.
In an insane world, a sane man must appear insane. Yeah, think about that later.
That's heavy, man. So I pulled this quote from Kongson Pax to kind of further illustrate, which is one of Crowley's books on is essays in light, Kongson Pax. And basically what Crowley is mainly talking about in this book is about truth, or what truth is. So there's this little story that he tells in the second essay there in Komsung Pax, which I'll write down Komsung Pax because that's another one y'all should read. Another really light reading stuff, light reading from Crowley, you know, as usual.
Sure.
See, we
Yes,
write
it's
anything.
light reading.
Nothing.
It's not.
There's nothing there. Okay.
His poems are pretty frivolous.
What?
Some of his poems are pretty frivolous.
Well, yeah, I guess. And Book of the Lies can be, some of them can be very straightforward. So, in Komsung Pax, Frater Neophyte K asks our supremely honored Frater L, 8 equals 3, are there such things as elemental spirits in the scientific sense? Now, Frater L knows that there are, just as Professor Ray Lancaster would assure the Hottentot of the reality of microscopic objects. But he also knows that there are not, seeing that all is but an illusory veil of the indicable arcanum in the adytum of God-nourished silence. Frater L will therefore reply yes if he thinks Frater K in danger of skepticism. He will reply no if he thinks Frater K is a curiosity monger. In neither case will he consider the fact of the question. In neither case will he consider the fact of the question, unless, with a secret smile, he, for his own sake, wishes to affirm the illusion of all thoughts. In this event, he is really nearer untruthfulness than otherwise, even though his answer chanced to coincide with fact. This is called the perception of the illusion of the opposition of contraries. Oh boy, yeah. So we're in for it now. Once leave the truth, however, the mind interpret the aleph of the Semitic language, and it seems there is no road back to it. Aleph is the Semitic. That Aleph is the fool. Okay. Thus, samadhi comes as a shock, as a negation, as a cessation, because only by destruction can one attain thereto. Samadhi is never the idea, house of cards one thinks to build, but the toppling over of such a house may mean somewhat. The toppling over of Babel by Temura is Sheshak, or Keter. One cannot construct an adept. One cannot construct an adept, train, breed, or even imagine or create one, but by destroying all the thoughts of a man, what remains? So again, really talking about an exercise is to think of something that you've held very true to yourself, and for whatever reason, and to actually be the devil's advocate of that belief that you have, to investigate that, and to try to actually destroy it by that means, by skeptical or by logical means, and to see if it still remains true for you. These are some of the difficult things that we do as magicians to make sure that we're being real with ourselves, is to call into question these things that we've held, hold on to these things. I can't even think of some belief.
Dilemma.
What's that?
Dilemma.
Or, okay, will. Yeah, is will even true? It probably is. But maybe, I don't know.
I'll add that while it may be a lot more fun to play this game on other people's beliefs, it's a lot more useful to do it.
Indeed. Indeed. And that is also a very good point to call out as far as the application of any of this stuff. It is going to be a lot easier for us to look at others and to look at them to criticize than it is for us to look at ourselves and criticize. And criticize isn't necessarily a bad thing unless you're being an asshole about it. critical thinking is necessary in being a human being. Being a good human being or a better human being, you want to increase that critical thought and increase the amount of it, and also the intensity of it towards oneself in trying to achieve illumination. So, it is necessary if a question is to be intelligibly put that the querent should be on the same plane as the quesited. That's Victorian English stuff. It's killing me. So if you ask me, is samadhi real? I reply, first, I pray you, establish a connection between the terms. What do you mean by samadhi? There is a psychological or pathological state, which I call samadhi, and that state is as real in relation to man as sleep or intoxication or death. Philosophically, we may doubt the existence of all of these. So again, philosophically, in our minds, we can doubt all of this stuff. But we have no grounds for discriminating between them. The academic skepticism is a wholesale firm. And practically, I challenge you to draw valid distinctions. So what he's saying is the difference between sleep, intoxication, or death. Can we really, none of us know what death is, so we can kind of count that out. Sleep or intoxication, a lot of those kind of share a lot of these states. So all these states of consciousness of man are the consciousness of man. And if you destroy one of them, all fall together. So the philosophical view versus the practical view. The view from Ketcher on the Tree of Life versus the view, this is Ketcher, right at the top, number one, or versus Malkut. Ketcher is the crown, Malkut is the kingdom.
Do you want to put that on the whiteboard, maybe? Or no, you're done.
Hmm?
I was going to say, if you're going to show it, you could put it on the whiteboard, but I think you just finished with your...
Can you not see it?
There's glare, but...
There's glare.
But I mean, I can hear and understand what you're saying.
I'll bring it up here. It's a little far away. I always like to...
A little bit of tape.
Okay. So here we go. This is the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. The Thelemic Kabbalistic Tree of Life, I might add, which has the corrected attributions according to the Book of the Law. So Ketcher is the top, Malkut is the bottom. Ketcher, in this essay, Ketcher is kind of the philosophical, and Malkut is the practical. Okay, so this is all kind of conceptual. This is where it happens. This is the action, the earth, where it lands. So, Crowley wants to point out somebody in the middle, this guy right here, Tiferet, which is center of the Tree of Life. And he says, this is the man who is trying to raise his consciousness from Malkut to Kether. So you can see he's in the center of all this stuff, right? See this? See this stuff? He's in the center right here. He's got a lot of stuff he's working with, right? He's in the center of the action, man. You know, down here, you know, up here, you know, you're kind of done, you know? So, Tiferet is kind of where you want to be. And actually, I propose that that's actually where we all are, actually. We're here already. We just need to realize it instead of being with our heads in the sand down in Malkut. Or I don't know too many people who have their heads up there, but it might be kind of fun to see that.
For a little
So-
bit.
So this Tifereth man is in a devil of a hole. He knows theoretically all about the Kether point of view, or he thinks he does, and practically all about the Malkuth point of view. Consequently, he goes about contradicting Malkuth. He refuses to allow Malkuth to obsess his thought. He keeps on crying out that there is no difference between a goat and a god, in the hope of hypnotizing himself, as it were, into that perception of their identity, which is his partial and incorrect idea of how things look from Kether. This man performs great magic, very strong medicine. He does really fine gold on the midden, and skeletons and pretty girls. In God, I'm having trouble pronouncing stuff tonight. Abiegnis. In Abiegnis, the sacred mountain of the Rosicrucians, the postulant finds but a coffin in the central shrine. Yet that coffin contains Christian Rosenkreuz, who is dead and is alive forevermore, and hath the keys of hell and of death. Your Tifereth man, child of mercy and justice, looks deeper than the skin. Child of mercy and justice. Mercy and justice. Mars and Jupiter. Bam. And this is also, Tifereth is the center of this is attributed to the sun. Okay? So the sun, our Lord the sun. But he seems a ridiculous object enough to both the Malkuth man and the Kether man. Who would we be talking about? What is he talking about with the Malkuth man? Any ideas? What do you think he's talking about? Malkuth man.
Someone that's just immersed in the material and mundane.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. So he says, yeah, it seems ridiculous to him. It also seems ridiculous to this person up here in Kether, who is Episimus or, enlightened, whatnot, These guys who are just like, okay, keep at it, you're going to get there. Keep on climbing up the mountain. Still, I love this part. Still, the man in Tifereth is the most interesting man there is, or woman, for that matter. And we must all pass through that stage before we get our heads really clear. So, he's kind of discussing the progression through the tree of life. And starting here, you go here, you go here, here, here. And you're traversing all these paths along the way. You're learning new things. Again, the book, first essay in Council and Pax, is a great portrayal of the adept working his way through the tree.
Is
Okay?
that called the serpent path?
That,
Is that what that is?
well, that's not necessarily what I'm calling it
Oh, okay.
at this point. But that could be one way of putting it.
I thought that sort of like mapped it out or something.
The serpent? Yeah, the serpent going over the paths.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but we don't have a diagram of that. So the first essay in Council and Pax is called Wake World. It's a beautiful little story that Crowley wrote, basically talking about the adept or the initiate coming through all the stages to reveal adeptship.
How many essays are in Conks? It's just like
Council and Pax is 4 essays.
4.
Okay, so still, he's the most interesting man there is, and we must all pass through that stage before we get our heads really clear. The Kether vision above the clouds that encircle the mountain, Abiegnis. So here he's talking about this. We have the Vale of Paraket down here. We have the Vale of Dot here. So here, we have another Vale here. Kind of 2 different subsections of the tree of life. Getting into some Kabbalah stuff that necessarily get into at this point, but for all intents and purposes, just wanted to explain that. I thought that was a nice little allegory. Okay, so so now Crowley's kind of winding up the essay, and he says, running and returning like the cherubim, which are the little angels, we may now resume our attempt to drill our hunchback friend, this guy, into a presentable soldier. Okay, so what's the difference between, what are you guys' concepts on, like, you know, the soldier and the hunchback? What do you get from this? What's achieved here? Is what I'm saying. Like, what does the question mark represent? What does the hunchback represent in your consciousness?
Curiosity.
Yes. I like that. Curiosity. Yes. Okay. Anything else?
Uncertainty.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Confusion. Mm-hmm. Words.
Doubt.
Possibility.
Mm. Anything else?
What was the question?
Question. What does that mean?
Exactly.
What does that kind of evoke? The idea of a question mark.
Pursuit of knowledge.
Okay. What about question? Just to be glib about it. What about this guy? The soldier. What does the soldier represent? Exclamation mark. What does that mean to you guys?
Assertion.
Strength or force.
Not to take from the other side directly, but certainty.
Good. I like it.
Just came to the beer, man.
Mm-hmm.
Excitedness.
Excited. Okay. I like that too.
Dead end.
Dead end.
No, because there's always that next hunchback.
Yeah.
What is-
Either one is a
soldier
dead
is
end
followed
if
by
it's
a
not.
hunchback, right?
Soldier is followed by the hunchback, yes.
Followed by the soldier.
Followed by the soldier.
and
Followed
just
by the
keeps going.
hunchback. Yes. I also think of confidence. So confidence in your resolve to move forward, to take that step forward. When you're questioning, you're not moving forward necessarily in a physical sense. You're up here, right? You're up here, which is cool. Just as long as you can bring it back down here. 'Cause this is where we actually exist. Actually, so this is actually where we exist. Actually, so yeah, got to keep that in mind with these things. You know? We don't exist up here, and it's been a big leap for me to have to make that realization that we exist in the physical. So I think, you know, confidence in that, you know, you're moving forward with things, you're taking the first step, or taking the steps to where you arrive at another place where, I'm curious about that. What's going on over there, you know? Like if you're going up the Tree of Life, for instance, you know, you're over here in Malkuth. Oh, let's go up this path. Oh, well, that's interesting. Oh, let's go over here. Oh, now I get it about what that means to me. Well, let's go over here. And so you just keep on going, right? So let's see. Where were we here? We have questioned the Malkuth point of view. It appears absurd, be it agreed, in that, you know, it's all about the material, and we've seen a lot of people and things in the news that you're just like, holy shit, what is wrong with these people, kind of thing, right? Also keep in mind that's also you asking a question about yourself, because we are all part of that same continuum. So that's, you know, it's cool to be like, oh, I'm judgy, like, you know, but then it's like, oh shit, yeah, I do that too. Maybe a little less, you know, some people are, you know, go a little too far with things. I'm not talking about Donald Trump, okay? We're not going to go into a political discussion today. But the Tiferet position is unshaken. Tiferet needs no telling that Malkuth is absurd. Okay, when we turn our artillery against Tiferet, that too crumbles. But Keter frowns above us.
What? Say that again.
Okay. So it says, this is Crowley says, Tiferet needs no telling that Malkuth is absurd. But when we turn our artillery against Tiferet, that too crumbles. And Keter frowns above us.
What is that from?
This is from
Soldier.
Soldier.
Aspect.
Wow. Personifying Kether. That's
Well, it's not a personification. Basically, what he's talking about is that when you take out the middle of the thing, it drops. So then you go into another. This is going to get complicated. Okay. So we can start with Malkuth of Malkuth. Okay. And then you can have Yesod of Malkuth and Hod of Malkuth. All these are going to be attributed to Malkuth. Once we get up to Keter, and we've challenged our holy guardian angel enough, it falls down again, and now we're in Yesod, and then we get Malkuth of Yesod, Yesod of Yesod, Hod of Yesod, Nitzak of Yesod, Tiferet of Yesod, and it keeps on, and then we get up to Keter again, falls down again, and we keep on going up that way. That's one concept of progress through the tree, which obviously seems very intimidating, but yeah, it's fun. So yeah, that's the idea that he's talking about. I believe
It's a
is
tree
that
of
it's
life
not
in
like
everyone.
what's that?
There's a tree of
There's a
life.
tree of life in every single Sephiroth, and as you progress through the tree and onto the paths, you start to obtain the knowledge necessary for you to destroy that. I've been working with this a little bit more recently, where it's actually to expand. So we're not actually
Refine,
just raising our building. We're actually like adding on. Yeah, let's add some more stories. Get that skyscraper even more.
Dross too, like refining at the same time.
You could do that in the alchemical sense. Yeah. It's definitely a refining. If in the alchemical sense we're trying to achieve the philosopher's stone, which is the pure essence of whatever material you're working with. And that is a series of, fire and water and all these types of things that will disintegrate the initial thing that you're working with, and then refine it, and you just continue to refine it until it turns into gold. So when we retire up the path, fighting rear guard actions, which was actually mentioned, because we're going up the path as a soldier, confident, we're going, right? But then we're going to get up to Hode, and we're still going to be like fighting off all these questions that are coming at us now, because they're behind us. So the soldier, we're trying to fight off these questions that are coming at us constantly. So fighting rear guard actions at every moment, soldier is slain by a hunchback. But as we retire, there is always a soldier just by us. And I believe that is Crowley's reference to saying, you still have your will, your true will, your true essence of being that is still with you. Okay. So even these questions that we're going to have as we're proceeding in initiations, or as we're, we can get as practical as moving up the corporate ladder if you're working in a company, or working, if you're an artist, as far as where you're displaying your artwork, if it's in the Metropolitan Museum, or if it's in a cafe, there's all this progress that we're looking at in our lives. And as we progress through our lives, we are going to have those questions constantly on us. And that's good. Invite those things. Try to decide what the answer is and move confidently with that answer. You might be totally wrong, but it's better than being stagnant. Stagnation is death. Fear is failure. Fear and the forerunner of failure. Okay? So any kind of restriction or thing that's going to keep you in your place, what you think your place is, you're not going to ever hold that place. You can never hold your place, no matter what anyway. So might as well just keep moving, until the end. Until the end, Buddha thought the supply of hunchbacks infinite. But why should not the soldiers themselves be infinite in number? And that's a good point to bring up. I mean, we think we're always going to be, the Buddha said, question everything, constantly inquire, even question that statement. However, what Crowley brings up into the new Aeon kind of thought is like, well, yeah, there can be an infinite number of those. There's an infinite number of these too. So, there's always an answer to your question. The answer is inherent in your question. And it's about moving forward with the confidence that that can make it for you. Make it or break it. However that may be, here's the point. It takes a moment for a hunchback to kill his man, and the further we get away from our base, the longer it takes. You may crumble to ashes the dream world of a boy, as it were, between your fingers, but before you can bring the physical universe tumbling about a man's ears, he requires to drill his hunchback so devilish well that they are terribly like soldiers themselves. And a question capable of shaking the consciousness of samadhi could, I imagine, give long odds to one of Frederick's grenadiers. So, what he's talking about, I believe, here is making your questions so intent. I actually got this thing earlier today. I was like, well, that kind of looks like the scythe that death wields. So you can use this can be a weapon too, right?
And that's like a baseball bat.
Yeah, it's like a baseball bat, or a bowling pin upside down. So he says it is useful to attack the mystic by asking him if he is quite sure samadhi is good for his poor health. But this is like asking the huntsman to be very careful, please, not to hurt the fox. The ultimate question, the one that really knocks samadhi to pieces, is such a stupendous idea that it is far more of a exclamation point than all previous exclamation points, whatever, for all its questioning form. And the name of that question is Nibbana, or Nirvana. We're talking about Kurt Cobain and the band. Oh, they're good. We don't need to go into that. But Nirvana, does anybody know what Nirvana? So samadhi is a concept, is a Hindu Buddhist concept of it's momentary. It's a fleeting realization of oneness with the universe, but it's not constant. It's just you get this thing. Wow, that was awesome. A lot of people want to stay in that blissful state. Nirvana. Does anybody know the difference between that and Nirvana? Keith?
I missed the beginning.
Oh, I was just saying the difference between samadhi, like samadhi being a momentary realization of the consciousness of continuity, so to speak. Whereas, what's the difference between that and nirvana?
Well, nirvana literally, etymologically means extinction.
Yes. To blow out, to quench. Yeah. So that's what?
To blow out?
To blow out. Nirvana, yeah. To blow it out. Blowing out the flame. But that's nothingness. And that gets into the three veils that are above the tree, which is Ayin Sof, Ur, which is nothingness. You're going to nothingness.
It's nothingness without twinkles.
Without all the cool little guys on the cards and stuff. These guys are pretty cool to have around.
No shinies.
Actually, some of them can be pretty freaking scary too, but you know, they're fun. They're fun guys. Okay, so yeah, so the nirvana basically is to be equated with something where you've actually realized your Godhead, essentially.
Actually, I would disagree with that one.
Okay.
It's beyond even that step.
Yeah.
It's where you've realized there's no God, no Godhead, no me, no you, nothing. I mean, it's like, it's not even empty, it's nothing.
Right. Right. I can dig that. So, okay. So in any case, Crowley says we're wasting our time. We are as ridiculous as our arahats, as Herod the Tetrarch with his peacocks.
Oh, yeah.
No idea what that means,
Of course.
but Crowley does, and that's the important thing. Okay, you could probably do this. This essay, I actually learned a lot about all the people that he was talking about because I was like, who the hell is this? Okay, gotta look them up. Okay, I get it now. But you know, it's part of the learning, and quite honestly, a lot of these guys that Crowley brings up in the essay are people that you want to check out some of their writing. Kant and Hume and Huxley, Thomas Huxley, not Algist, but Algist is good too. So to attach meaning to the statement, I'm sorry. In any case, we are wasting our time. We are as ridiculous as our arhats and Herod and peacocks. We posed life with the question, why? And the first answer is to obtain the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. That's Crowley's answer. That's what he thinks it is. Which basically is equivalent to this. So having knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel is could be a number of things for people. For me, that means that I have accessed the information within myself that is necessary for that given time, at any given time. That's what knowledge and conversation is for me. It may change tomorrow. I don't know. So to attach meaning to the statement, we must obtain knowledge and conversation. And when we have done that, we may proceed to the next question. Never ends. It is no good asking that now. However, I am not so, this is Crowley again, I am not so foolish as to think that my doctrine can ever gain the ear of the world. I expect that 10 centuries hence, the nominal Crowleyans, or as we call them, Crowleyites, will be as pestilent and numerous as a body as the nominal Christians are today. For at present, I have been able to devise no mechanism for excluding them. Rather, perhaps, should I seek to find them a niche in the shrine, just as Hinduism provides a light for those capable of the Upanishads and those whose intelligence hardly reaches to the Tantras. In short, one must abandon the reality of religion for a sham, so that the religion may be universal enough for those few who are capable of its reality to nestle to its breast and nurse their nature on its starry milk. But we anticipate. My message, Crowley's message, and my message, is then twofold. To the greasy bourgeois, I preach discontent. I shock him. I stagger him. I cut away earth from under his feet. I turn him upside down. I give him hashish and make him run amok. I twitch his buttocks with the red tongs of my sadistic fancy until he feels uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. Unless he's really into it.
Oh, man.
Probably still make people uncomfortable. But to the man who is already as uneasy as St. Lawrence on his silver grill, everyone know that reference?
Of course.
Good. We're going to do that. Who feels the spirit stir in him, even as a woman feels and sickens at the first leap of a babe in her womb. To him I bring the splendid vision, the perfume of the glory, the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. And to whosoever hath attained that height will I put a further question. Announce a further glory. It is my misfortune and not my fault that I am bound to deliver this elementary message. Man has two sides. One to face the world with, and one to show a woman when he loves her. Okay, we must pardon Browning and his body jest, for his truth is o'er true. But it is your own fault if you are the world instead of the beloved, and only see of me what Moses saw of God. So again, that quote of Browning's, man has two sides, one to face the world with, one to show a woman when he loves her. We know what that means. I think all of us know that that means men and women. We put on different guises, right? But what his point is that it's your own fault if you are perceiving the world differently than yourself as the world and the beloved. So again, now we're bringing it back to this unified idea that Crowley is working with. He says, he goes on here, the first step is the hardest. Make a start, and I will soon set the hunchback lion and the soldier unicorn fighting for your crown. I didn't really understand about that, but I kind of, the unicorn with the horn and the lion, kind of, I don't know. And they shall lie down together at the end, equally glad, equally weary, with soul and sublime that crown of thine shall glitter in the frosty void of the abyss. It's 12 stars filling that silence and solitude with a music and emotion that are more silent and more still than they. Thou shalt sit throned on the invisible, thine eyes fixed upon that which we call nothing, because it is beyond everything attainable by thought or trance. Thy right hand gripping the azure rod of light, thy left hand clasped upon the scarlet scourge, death, thy body girdled with a snake more brilliant than that of the sun, its name eternity, thy mouth curved moonlight in a smile, in the invisible kiss of Nuit, Our Lady of the Stars. Thy body's electric flesh stilled by sheer might to a movement closed upon itself in the controlled fury of her love. Nay, beyond all these images art thou, who art passed from I and thou and he unto that which hath no name, no image. So, kind of wraps that section up. Couple little like. So thelemic philosophy. What do you guys think of like the thelemic point of view? What's the difference between the thelemic point of view as opposed to the Christian point of view?
Not elevating one thing, not elevating like meekness as a virtue. That was just something I thought of.
Okay. Yeah.
Faith versus science.
There we go.
I was going to say an overall openness towards many things.
I think as I close my mind. No, I think it's cool to be, to not stop somebody from saying something that they're saying unless it's hurtful towards another person. But as far as like, being open or accepting or passive, these kinds of things, not necessarily what we need, to be, in that, no, we need to be active, we need to be engaged. When somebody presents us with something that's whack, you're going to say, no, dude, that's whack. That's not acceptable. Hey, hey, Donald Trump, you're an idiot. Something like that,
Everyone can believe what they want to believe.
Everyone will believe whatever they want to believe. That is true. That is true. People will believe whatever the fuck they want to believe. So you can battle against that as much as you want, but that's the thelemic point of view asks for facts of observation. So going back to the original thing that we were talking about with scientific illuminism, and that we're calculating, we're taking note of what we're doing, and that could be anything. It could be your exercise routine. It could be how you sleep at night, what you eat, how you're doing your ritual. But the difference is keeping track of these things. Go ahead and keep track of what you eat for a week. It's going to be very enlightening. That is a concept that is introduced in the new Aeon, I believe. Is that it's not about passivity. It's not about just the status quo and going along with it. It's looking for facts of observation of your own life, your own livelihood. Faith that and also with the thelemic point of view is that faith isn't abolished, but it is faith that inspires one to experiment with the possibilities and the use of the scientific method to ascertain the validity of the results. And this is because all of our lives are subjective, right? So faith is the inspiration. So you want to believe, you want to believe in, hadith or something? Go for it. See where that takes you, like invoke hadith, see how that works out, experiment with the possibilities, and that's, that's up here, got a possibility over here. And the use of the scientific method, which is very straightforward. I don't have the 5 or 6 things that entails, but you can look it up online. Scientific method. Take the scientific method and apply that to something that's mundane in your life and see what happens. It's interesting, at the very least. But it's about being engaged in the world, right? And that's just because all of our lives are subjective and different. So that concludes my talk. Any questions? What?
What's the land?
What is this tree of life you talk about? What is Kabbalah? No, please, you can ask me any of those questions. I don't care. I'll take them. I'll field them.
Would you say that Liber, the beginning quote in like Liber O is like kind of sums up the scientific illuminism approach? In this book it is spoken of the Sephiroth and things that may or may not exist.
Right. Well, and that, I think that is, that'd be nice to pull up that quote real quick.
It is immaterial whether they exist or not. By doing certain things, certain results follow. It's dire to not accept any objective truth as the one truth, something like that.
In this book, it is spoken of the Sephiroth and the paths, which are all these circles and paths, of spirits and conjurations, of gods, spheres, planes, and many other things which may or may not exist. It is immaterial whether these exist or not. By doing certain things will follow. Students are most earnestly warned against attributing objective reality or philosophic validity to any of them. You can do it for yourself, I guess, but again, like allowing yourself to, say that that's good for that day and being able to move on the next day. And for certain, not expecting, don't expect anybody to share that with you. It's really cool that, we can come here, O.T.O, and have like-minded people, have like-minded philosophies and whatnot. And it's always like, on the way over here tonight, I experienced so many weird road rage things on the freeway. I was just really baffled. I'm like, oh yeah, right. People are people. And we're kind of lucky to be in this little group where we can speak intelligently about things. But once we go out into the world, we're out in the world again, and we're subject to whatever's going on around us. And the idea, I think to kind of hold is, be skeptical. Be skeptical about what you're thinking. Be skeptical about your road rage. Somebody's honking at you, why are they honking? Maybe I should move out of the way. No, they're just being an asshole. I don't know. There's a lot of things you can get into with this, But yeah, I think that, as far as, the objectivity versus subjectivity, and not relating Crowley's experience to yours, that's what he's talking about with the Crowleyans. He said, we call them Crowleyites nowadays, where anything that Crowley says is the gospel, and
Well, yeah.
quite honestly, Aleister Crowley would not be okay with that. He would be like, or maybe he would, depending on what he wanted from you. He's a person. So we got to keep in mind that, we're all people, we're all trying to figure this stuff out. And,
I think it's somewhat ironic that one of the most shared Crowley memes where he says, I don't want to foster a flock of fools and fanatics. Think about it for 2 seconds.
Yeah. You looking at me?
Actually, it wasn't.
Yeah, I know.
Now I am.
Yeah. Well, he definitely liked attention. Like, Crowley's vision, I believe, for the new Aeon was actually to be independent, realize that we're all part of the same system that is working together, and that not to be passive about things, but to be active. This is the amount of passivity, this is not passive. Question mark is not being passive. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely not passive.
It can be.
Question or exclamation mark?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I guess it like
Just being
rah,
no,
rah,
I
rah.
know that's what it is. So.
Yay, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
More passive aggressive.
But yeah, we could delve further into like, well, what's the motivation behind any of these things? Yeah. Get into an existential dilemma.
We still got
I'll
a
do
few
my
more
next talk on
hours, right?
Nietzsche just for you. Yes. We'll be here for days. We'll cry about his syphilis. Tragic death. Anyway, any other questions?
It's not really a question, but one of my favorite quotes from the Book of Lies, I was just looking at it again. On the commentary, it says, this chapter should be read in connection with the soldier and the hunchback, of which it is in some sort an epitome. And
Let's read it.
Is it the tarantula?
no,
Let's
it
read
is
it.
chapter 51, Terrier Work. Doubt thyself. Doubt even if thou doubtest thyself. Doubt all. Doubt even if thou doubtest all. It seems sometimes as if beneath all conscious doubt there lay some deepest certainty. Oh, kill it, slay the snake. The horn of the doubt goat be exalted. Dive deeper, ever deeper, into the abyss of mind, until you unearth the fox that. On, hounds! Yoicks! Tally-ho! Bring that to bay. Then wind the mort. Enough said. Yeah, it's a...
Is that his commentary?
No, that's
That's
it.
it, yo. Out.
That's
Mic drop.
But like the commentary really expands upon it.
Before there were raging microphones.
He was ahead of his time, man.
Probably the hipster.
Is part of the commentary too. The very last line is, beyond this is a still deeper state of mind, which is that. Which is the same that is interior work, by the way, specifically.
That the fox hunters gotta destroy. Wait, what was it?
Well, it's the hounds
The
are
hounds.
on it.
That's right.
Tally-ho.
Tally-ho.
I mean, I can read the commentary too. It's a little bit expansive upon the chapter itself, but makes you doubt, maybe. I don't know, should I read it?
Go ahead.
So this is chapter 51, by the way. The number 51 means failure and pain, and its subject is appropriately doubt. The title of the chapter is borrowed from the health-giving and fascinating sport of fox hunting, which Frater Perdurabo followed in his youth. This chapter should be read in connection with the soldier and the hunchback, of which it is in some sort an epitome. Its meaning is sufficiently clear. But in paragraphs 6 and 7, it will be noticed that the identification of the soldier with the hunchback has reached such a pitch excuse me, that the symbols are interchanged, enthusiasm being represented as a sinuous snake, skepticism as the goat of the Sabbath. In other words, a state is reached in which destruction is as much joy as creation, compared to chapter 46. Beyond this is a still deeper state of mind, which is that. And chapter 46 is buttons and rosettes, by the way. But yeah, chapter 51's always like the second part gets a bit deep, but the first part is equally deep and always really stuck with me.
Indeed.
And I actually forgot that it had connection with Soldier and the Hunchback until I brought it up and saw it there. I swear I didn't
Very
plan
cool.
it.
Very cool.
Would anyone like to see
Book
this
of Lies is also, well, I could just say, read all of Crowley's stuff.
Especially the Book of Lies. Everything
Talk to
in
me
that book is
in
gold.
30, 40 years. Compare notes. Yeah. So, all right. Thank you. Love is the law. Love it or will.